Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel. On this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. And there were a lot of updates that came from Zaporozhye, Vremivka tactical bridgehead front lines, from Siversk front line and so on. So let's start and let's go step by step. And first we're going to start with Kaminsky Frontline. The Ukrainians, as a result of very fierce storming operation with a very heavy pressure on Russian positions in Petikhatki, managed to push the Russians from this settlement. The Russian sources are saying that Petikhatki currently is in the gray zone. The Ukrainians reported that they have captured these settlements. If you ask my opinion, I believe that the Ukrainians were able to enter the settlement, were able to establish control over some buildings and so on. But to tell the truth, this is not a very comfortable situation in Petikhatki. The problem is that the Russians during the previous day, as I understand, as soon as they understood that there is no chances to save control over this settlement, managed to brought significant number of flamethrower systems all over around this settlement. And as soon as the Ukrainians entered this settlement and captured the buildings, the Russians start bombing and shelling these small settlement with every type of weapon they have. And as a result of those attacks, the Ukrainian forces were destroyed in this settlement, in the forest, in this settlement, in the buildings. And as a result of that attack, at least 10 tanks were destroyed and one armored infantry vehicle were destroyed. A lot of manpower was destroyed and so on. And after that, the Russians stepped back from the settlements towards more reliable positions. During the day, the Ukrainians continue a regrouping process in the settlement, trying to get more manpower, trying to secure the front line. And the Russians are saying they expect the resume of the offensive operation during the next days. Furthermore, the Russians published a very interesting video how the Ukrainians were making mining process using the drone. As you can see, this is a small vehicle, drone vehicle, and as you can see, this drone vehicle brought a mine. Then this vehicle dropped the mine and left positions. So this is the tactic that Ukrainians start using with the mining. As you can see, there are a lot of mines. The Ukrainians understand that they can't get there by themselves, and this is very interesting tactics, and I believe that the Ukrainians will intensify using this method and this doctrine of war. Now let's move further to Orechov frontline. The Russians reported that during the previous night there was a real massacre on this bridgehead. The Ukrainians were sending wave by wave, and there are dozens, hundreds of bodies of Ukrainian soldiers are lying along the combat line. Of course, it's up to you to believe or not. Anyway, we know that Ukrainians have launched massive attack offensive operation, and of course there is a very high chance that the Russians launch some kind of media company trying to reduce the spirit of Ukrainian forces, trying to force them to not to attack, not to follow the orders and so on. But anyway, the Russians reported that, for example, when talking about entire Orechov front line, during the previous night the Ukrainians lost 11 tanks, 25 armored vehicles, 150 soldiers killed and around 400 soldiers wounded all over the front line, starting from Nistirianka to Novopokrovka during just one night. So the Ukrainians during the previous night were trying to attack as usual. First there was attack on the western flank of Rabotiny front line. Then the Ukrainians made another attempt to attack the same direction on the eastern flank of this road in direction of Rabotino. As usual, the Ukrainians were attacking from Mala Takmachka in direction of the settlements Novopokrovka, Novofedorovka and Verbova. All those attacks were repelled. The losses are very heavy, and for example, just on the western front line of the road between Novodanilovka and Rabotino, the Ukrainians lost during the previous night 3 infantry armored vehicles, 2 tanks, 2 infantry fighting vehicles and 50 soldiers. Furthermore, starting this morning, with Russians of course understand that to provide number is not a correct thing they can do, because you can say that during the night the Russians destroyed 100,000 Ukrainian soldiers, and of course somebody can believe these numbers. But of course, if you are able to provide some photo, video of any type of confirmations, this is going to be a very good base for analysis, and the Russians started providing a lot of videos, and most of those videos were related to that the Russians captured a lot of prisoners of war. This video came from Kaminsky Frontline. On this video you can see that something like a company or probably like platoon of Ukrainian soldiers surrendered somewhere in Orechov bridgehead. Behind them there is destroyed Max Pro vehicle. Furthermore, the Russians are saying that Ukrainians know exactly, the soldiers on the combat line know exactly about the losses among their personnel, and some sources are saying that Ukrainians started damaging their own vehicles like Max Pro, like Humvees, those types of vehicles that they can damage just with one purpose: to avoid making any offensive operation in direction of the Russian fortifications, because they understand that this is a real suicide operation. And of course, a lot of updates came today from Vremivka tactical bridgehead. The Russians repelled attacks, Ukrainian attacks in direction of Priyutina. The Russians repelled Ukrainians attacks in direction of Rovnopol. The Ukrainians made a lot of attempts to attack in direction from Makarovka to Staromayorskaya and from Blagodatna in direction of Urozhaina. All those attacks were repelled, and the Ukrainians took a decision to attack Novodonetsk. All those attacks were repelled. For example, during the attack in direction of Urozhaina, the Ukrainians lost around 5 armored vehicles and manpower. They haven't provided us the number about the loss among the manpower. When talking about attack in direction of Priyutina from Livadna, the Ukrainians lost around 2 tanks, 2 infantry armored vehicles, and 70% of the personnel that took place in that attack. Furthermore, the Russians published a lot of video. For example, the Russians published a video how what was the battle. So as you can see, a soldier attacking from the trenches, but then there was a very heavy explosion right in front of his trenches. After that, he changed his position and started attacking the offensive Ukrainian forces one more time, and then another explosion took place right in front of his trenches. As you can see, there's a very heavy clashes, and the Ukrainians are not counting neither artillery systems, artillery shelling tanks, nothing. They have just one purpose: to achieve at least some result before the NATO summit. And one more time, the Russians continue publishing the video and photo confirmation of captured soldiers. For example, on this video you can see the forces of probably 35th or 31st mechanized brigade that took place in offensive operation. There is no danger to lives of these soldiers. As you can see, this is just regular guys. They were saying that they were captured during the attacks on the Vremivka tactical bridgehead. They were captured. Currently, there's going to be some kind of investigation. The Russians need to find out whether these guys had any connections with the real crimes like killing civilians, and if there are no problems with the law, with crime, of course they will be judged and will be in conditions like regular prisoners of war, and sooner or later they will be exchanged with the Russian soldiers. And this about the Marinka bridgehead, Makarovka bridgehead. Another video and photo we received from the area of Urozhaina, and the Russians are saying that on this picture you can see the Russian forces on the left side and 2 Ukrainian soldiers from 35th mechanized Marine Brigade, like this one, 35th Marine Brigade, who were captured and who were giving some explanations of what they're doing on the front lines. As you can see, significant number of manpower, prisoners of war, and probably the next Ministry of Defense report, they will give us a lot of numbers, how many soldiers were captured during the previous night. Another video of prisoners of war came today from Seversk bridgehead. The Russians were showing another soldier from 10th Mountain Assault Brigade. He was asked a question, where is he serving, what was he doing there. So as you can see, we can't tell for sure what exactly is going on the front lines. It's very difficult. We're not there. We have some videos, some photo confirmations. We know for sure that the Russians were forced to step back from Petykhatki. The Ukrainians probably entered that settlement, or the settlement is in the green zone. There were updates that Ukrainians did manage to penetrate the Russians' defense line in front of Robotina. Of course, different sides gives different updates. In the day or two, we're going to see the real picture, but the thing that I know and I see for sure, that the Russians launched a massive media campaign against the Ukrainian soldiers, trying to reduce their spirit. To tell the truth, all those prisoners of war were captured by the Russians, but maybe some of them were captured not today, during the previous days, but exactly right now they took a decision to release all this video and to give soldiers on the front lines to see what is going to happen next. And that they can surrender and to stop this bloody massacre all over the combat line. And that's it for this short video. Military Summer channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.